What's up, YouTube world? I'm back. You know, I don't really want to say I'm back for good or whatever. I don't really know how the thing's going to go. There's been a lot of things that have been going on in me and Bill's lives, and I'll just explain to you some of the things. Bill had a child. He had a little boy, and a couple of months after that, we had these wildfires in Texas, and his neighborhood was one of the victims, and he lost his entire house. His house was burned down. His wife's car was burned. Everything he owned, it got destroyed. And then he's now living at his in-laws right now, and he's having a new house being built, and he's fine. No worries there. Like, everything's good, and he'll have a bigger house than what he had before, and the insurance all took care of him and everything. And then for me, my wife is now pregnant, and she is due May 9th, and it's exciting time for us because we've been trying for so long. My wife actually had a miscarriage at one point, and this is like almost 3 years ago. We've been trying ever since then, and now finally it's worked. So it's almost taken 2-3 years or whatever to finally get her pregnant, and it finally worked. So that's a good thing, and you know, we're just growing up, guys. I mean, I'm 28 now, and I think Bill's 26, and you know, just not all about pro wrestling anymore and things, but I'm still passionate about a lot of subjects, so I still plan on doing videos. I don't know how many videos me and Bill will do together. Like I said, we're living pretty far apart right now, and you know, all of his stuff is gone right now, so he has to replace everything, so we'll just see what happens. But there's still plenty to talk about. I don't want to talk about pro wrestling right now. Pro wrestling pisses me off, to be quite frank. You know, the CM Punk stuff was really exciting, and now he's back to being a corporate sellout, and I don't care what he says. It's what it is. You know, when you're involved with Raw and they're having the Muppets on, and you're tagging with Triple H, and I mean, it completely lost its steam, and nobody cares anymore. They're on to the next thing, and now The Rock's back and facing Miz and Truth, which I really could care less about. And I mean, The Rock and Cena is really what everybody's caring about. I care about it too. I'll look forward to that when it comes, but I'm not that excited about it or anything, so it is what it is. And then TNA, I mean, they do signs of little things to fix things, but overall it's still a mess. I really don't watch it all that much. I DVR it, but I just don't really pay attention. I do like a couple things. I like how Sting is being booked now. It's just kind of like a GM type role, no face paint. He isn't wrestling a lot. That's the way you need to use a legend, is just bring him in every now and then. Even if he wrestles, that's okay. You know, do it like every 3 or 4 months or something, so at least still has somewhat of a special feel to it, and it's done properly, and it's not overdone. Because Sting is not an active wrestler anymore. He's too old. People aren't interested in that, you know. Hogan hasn't been on TV in a while. That's an improvement. You know, the young guys are starting to get a shot. Rude became champion. The way they did it, though, was so retarded. But anyways, then AJ. But I really feel like this company still has a lot of faith in Jeff Hardy, and they want to build it on Jeff Hardy. I think that's a terrible mistake, but it is what it is. You know, that's pretty much all I have to say about pro wrestling. You know, the only thing that really just drives me insane is pro wrestling is really like the only, I guess, entertainment-based company that I know that just completely thinks they're smarter than the fan. They think they're smarter than the fan base, and they give the fans no credit. You know, it's like, oh, you're a mark. Well, okay, well, if we are a mark, then that means we're a fan of something. Why aren't you going to give us what we want? I mean, Dixie will get on her Twitter and be like, you know, the originals are facing each other tonight on Impact. Be sure to watch it. This is what you guys have been wanting. Okay, so you've known we've wanted this for over a year, and you're finally going to give it to us? You don't think we're already burned out by now? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, if me and Bill aren't that interested in pro wrestling, and we grew up with it all our lives and loved it all our lives, what is the casual fan thinking right now? You know, and now that the UFC's got a mainstream television deal, although that was a really short main event. But now that they have that and they're getting their name out there more and more, I mean, I just think it could be a kill shot for pro wrestling. I really do. I think that pro wrestling is at a stage where they think that they don't have to please the fan. And if you don't have to please the fan, then, you know, if you think you know more than what we know, if you think that you can give us whatever you want to give us and we'll just keep buying into the crap, you're sadly mistaken. And ratings prove that, buy rates prove that, attendance records prove that. I mean, people aren't as interested in pro wrestling anymore. It's not the cool thing anymore. So you really have to step your game up. You really have to bring it. And it doesn't seem like the mainstream companies want to do that. You know, every now and then they'll tease you and they'll show you that they can be good, and then they'll take it all away, and then you'll go right back to square one. So it's really frustrating. And that's just the way I feel about that. Let's talk some MMA. You know, I am ecstatic about Nick Diaz and George St. Pierre. I think that fight is going to be awesome. I love the storyline of the fight, and that's another thing. There are better storylines in mixed martial arts right now than there are in pro wrestling by far. The John Jones Rashad Evans is a fantastic storyline. It's a storyline of betrayal and friendship and the student versus the teacher and all different types of things that make a great feud. The Diaz St. Pierre storyline is a fantastic storyline because it's two different people, two totally different lifestyles in all cases, going against each other, and it's just an amazing thing to see play out, and then you just hope that the fight delivers. But a lot of people don't understand is the build-up to fights are sometimes more entertaining than the fights, and that's the way it is in pro wrestling also. But if you watch the Countdown show, if you watch the pre-show interviews, if you watch all that other stuff, you usually get really good build-up, and that makes you excited to order the pay-per-view. Same thing in pro wrestling. But anyways, about Diaz and St. Pierre. My thing was with Nick Diaz is the last time he was in the UFC and he faced pretty tough competition, he didn't do that well because he would be willing to go to the ground and try to work off of his back, and he would lose points in that way, and so he never really got dominated. I mean, I thought he clearly lost the Diego fight when they fought a while back, but he never really got dominated. He just kind of fought stupid fights. So then when he went to Elite XC and Strikeforce, and when he fought Pride a couple times, it was like, okay, is he just getting better, or is he just facing not that good a competition? You know what I'm saying? So when he signed with the UFC, I thought it was fantastic, and I really wanted to see him in St. Pierre. But I also have my doubts. You know, I was like, it's one thing to beat Mario Zaromskis. It's one thing to beat, Scott Smith. Paul Daly was probably his most impressive victory. You know, it's one thing to beat a Frank Shamrock that's been a little over the hill for a long time. Where does Nick Diaz stand? And I had always thought to myself, a Nick Diaz versus BJ Penn fight would be absolutely amazing because both of those guys are going to be willing to throw down, and both of those guys are so good at jiu-jitsu that they're not going to be able to tap each other out. So they're just going to go in there and go to war. So when the whole Diaz GSP thing fell apart, I was thinking, okay. And then when BJ said he had a big opportunity and he was saying that he was actually, really excited about it, I was thinking, man, are they going to give him Diaz? Because that makes the most sense. And it was Diaz, and I was like, oh man, this is going to be awesome. And then Nick worried me because his attitude was just like, screw this fight, I don't even want this fight, this guy used to be my friend, I used to train with this guy, I don't want to fight this guy's a legend, yada, yada, yada. And I'm thinking to myself, oh man, here we go, Nick's about to have a mental breakdown, and this fight is just going to be garbage. And then at the weigh-in, Nick's like almost ready to throw a punch, like I could tell he was getting hyped up for it, and I was like, oh, okay, this is good, this makes sense, I'm liking it. And then for the fight, the weird thing about Nick is he truly hates fighting. Like, you can see it in his face. When he's walking towards the cage, he's mad that he's in this situation. He's mad that he has to pick fighting to provide a living for his life. He's upset that he has to walk down there and get punched in the face. And that's why when you see Nick Diaz before the fight and you see Nick Diaz after the fight, he's two totally different people because he's so pissed off that he has to even get in that situation. So anyways, he goes in there with BJ, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, don't get caught with anything stupid. And I went to the UFC Expo, and I talked to Gilbert Melendez about this fight, and I was just like, my biggest worry is that Nick is going to get caught with something stupid. And Gilbert was like, yeah, he has a puncher's chance. We really want 5 rounds, though, because there's no way that BJ can last 5 rounds with Nick. And I was thinking to myself, yeah, I think so, too. And he's like, but I think Nick's going to win the fight. And I was like, yeah, we were talking about the St. Pierre fight. And I was like, I think Nick's going to break his soul. And Gilbert totally agreed. Gilbert's like, he's going to break him in 2 rounds. 2 rounds, George is going to be, like, panicking and wanting to get out of there. And so it was really cool talking to Gilbert. Gilbert's a really cool guy, by the way. Like, Gilbert's line wasn't that long, but it took forever to get to him. And the reason is because he just sat there and talked to you for a long time. But anyways, so the fight starts. And Nick's getting caught a lot, and I'm thinking, oh man, he's getting outclassed. I'm about to look like a fool, and then come the second round, Nick starts to become Nick, and he gets really comfortable. Nick's a very slow starter, but he starts to get really comfortable, and he beats down BJ Penn. I mean, I've never seen BJ Penn get hit like that. And I mean, BJ just got destroyed in there. And Nick just kept coming and coming and coming. He breaks souls. He makes guys want to retire. Now, BJ said that he was thinking about retirement after that fight, or he was going to retire. He actually retired after that fight. Now he's kind of backtracking. But the reason he did is because in BJ's mind, he's too good for that. He's not supposed to get his ass whooped like that. And Nick did that to him. Paul Daly was the same way. Paul Daly, after that fight, before the fight, he was all like, oh, Nick Diaz, I can beat this guy, yada, yada, I'm going to knock him out, blah, 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 blah. After the fight, there's an interview with him in a hotel room, and he is like, if I can't be the best in this sport, then I don't even know if I want to continue. Talking about retirement. Nick Diaz, after you fight that guy, you're not the same fighter anymore. And that is why I believe that he's the worst nightmare for George St. Pierre. Because there's a point in George that I think George is a great fighter. I think George is an amazing athlete. But in my opinion, George St. Pierre is a heartless gymnastics performer. Okay? George St. Pierre will break. George St. Pierre will be a point in a fight where either he gets an eye poke or he tears his abductor muscle or whatever the crap is. There's a point in the fight where he gets uncomfortable, and that's when Nick Diaz is going to pour it on him, okay? And if Nick Diaz gets 5 rounds of George St. Pierre, there's going to be a point in that fight where Nick Diaz is going to take over and break George's soul. If George Shake Shields fight, that totally proves everything. George should have gone in there and destroyed Jake Shields. They didn't even go to the ground, so all they're doing is standing up. Jake's not that good at stand-up, and George just goes in there and farts around with points. Then he gets his eye hurt, and then the whole time he's talking about how he can't see. He can't see. If he's in that situation with Nick Diaz is going to beat the living piss out of him. And let George take him down. Let him take him down. Because if you do, you're with the top-level Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter, and Nick is very dangerous on the ground. So let him take him down. Eventually, Nick will take over, and Nick will have better cardio, and Nick will eventually get to where he will feel comfortable in the fight. I truly believe that. And I think that George will be very intimidated by Nick. I think George will be like, he's cussing at me. He's ready. He looks really angry. What do I do? I think at first George will be fine, but there's going to be a point in that fight where George is going to be like, oh crap, I'm in trouble. And stand-up wise, Nick is a better stand-up fighter when it comes to boxing. I think George used to be a killer, dude. George used to be a ruthless killer, destroying opponents. All that's gone now. He is not the same guy. Ever since Matt Serra knocked him out, and George tapped to strikes, by the way, that's the type of fighter that George St. Pierre is. He's not in there to try to get hurt. He's in there to dominate and to look and win decisive victories, and he's not in there to show any weakness. Nick Diaz, he doesn't care if you punch him 60 times in the face and cut his face wide open. He is there to beat your ass. And that, he is a fighter. And that is why he has such a huge fan base, is because, and the thing about Nick Diaz is I find him just over the top entertaining. You can listen to him in an interview, you ask him 3 questions, and he'll go on for 20 minutes. You know, like, one of the funniest things is I just like, so how's training, Nick? And then he'll just be like, train's cool, yeah, it's cool. I mean, I'm getting tired of hitting my brother, though. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's my brother, and I just, it's like same people, and then I'm trying to get these pro boxers, but these boxers, they want all this money, and then they, like, hold up hostage, you know what I'm saying? And it's just not fair, you know what I'm saying? So if we bring in these other boxers, and I'm like, I whoop their ass, and they want more money, you know what I'm saying? And I shouldn't have to hit my brother, I'm getting tired of the game, and that's why I'm thinking about just going to box. I mean, he'll just go on and on and on and on, and it'll be like 25 minutes if you ask him 3 questions. But that's what makes Nick so entertaining, and I think that that fight, man, I hope they do a primetime show. I hope Nick shows up for all the press conferences, which I will. I think a lot of it was a failure on UFC's communication part, and I think that's why he got a second chance, because they started to look at it and said, look, okay, we didn't cross our I's and dot our T's. Shit, messed up there. Dot our I's and cross our T's on where Nick needed to be at times, because there were the last conference call between BJ and Nick, the UFC didn't even communicate to him, and even Dana posted on a tweet that that's the truth. So, what it is, what it is. But I think Nick will be fine on the next fight. Did I think Carlos Condit got shafted? Hell no. Nick Diaz got the shaft, and that wasn't Carlos Condit's title shot in the first place. He just stepped in. But he's in a good position. If he beats Josh Koscheck, he'll get the next shot, which I absolutely love the fight. I would love to see Nick Diaz and Carlos Condit, or I'd love to see Carlos Condit and George St. Pierre. So it works for me. I think if Koscheck wins, then that's a different story. Boy, Koscheck and Diaz, boy, that would be some build-up, man. Because, oh, man, I think Koscheck would piss Nick off something fierce. But it is what it is. I actually did predict that Junior was going to beat Kane. I definitely didn't think it was going to be that decisive, that quick. But I just felt like Kane coming off a year-long layoff. And not just that, I don't even care if Kane came off a year-long layoff, or if he had to get cortisone shot in his knee, or whatever the case may be. I think Junior Dos Santos is a better fighter than Cain Velasquez. Junior Dos Santos hasn't lost a round in the UFC, and he's gone in there and destroyed everybody. I mean, Cain Velasquez went to Czech Congo, to Ben Rothwell, to Brock Lesnar. I mean, Brock Lesnar, we don't even really know how good he is, and I think that Cain kind of proved that he's overrated, but by beating Brock, that kind of makes you overrated also, because it doesn't mean that you're the cream of the crop just because you beat Brock Lesnar. I'm really looking forward to Brock and Overeem. I really hope Overeem wins that fight, and then if they do, then it's Overeem and Junior Dos Santos, which is basically the 2 best strikers in the heavyweight division. So that's a fantastic fight. I'm really looking forward to that fight. UFC 139, quick predictions there. I've got Henderson over Shogun. I think Shogun, he's just too hit or miss, and I think stand-up wise, I think Henderson has way more power. Also, Shogun is pretty easy to take down. Henderson has way superior wrestling. He'll be able to take Shogun down. He'll be able to dictate the pace of the fight. I just don't see it being a good night for Shogun. Kung Lee and Vanderlei. Whew, that's going to be an awesome fight. At first it was Kung Lee and Vitor. I think Vitor would have cleaned Kung Lee's clock, no questions about it. But with Vanderlei, he has such a shaky chin. He's also got so much pressure because basically his career's on the line because he got knocked out by Levin in 27 seconds, which was just a sad day for any of the hardcore Pride fans. But yeah, I think it's going to be a crazy fight. As long as Vanderlei isn't wild, I think he's the much better fighter. Kung Lee is a little one-dimensional with his kicks and his striking. He has good wrestling, though. I'm wondering if Kung Lee will use his wrestling at all, because he does have really good takedowns, but we'll see. He does have good takedown defense, too. I mean, it looks like it's going to be a stand-up fight. I just hope Vanderlei doesn't get caught with something stupid because he's being wild. I think Vanderlei needs to be composed and just wait for a shot. Eventually it'll come. And, you know, Scott Smith knocked out Kung Lee, so Vanderlei definitely has the ability to knock out Kung Lee. Uriah Faber, Brian Bowles. And I don't know. Brian Bowles has been kind of not so coming off so strong ever since he knocked out Miguel Torres, and then we lost the title and all. So I don't know about that. I'm leaning towards Uriah, so we'll see. Rick's Story, Martin Campman's going to be a really good fight too. This card is really good, by the way. It's a very underrated card. There's going to be a lot of great fights on this card, and then the next December card, I'll probably talk about that later. So, but yeah, guys, I think that's it. If you have any questions or whatever, I'm telling you, please hit me up on my Twitter. I like talking to you guys, so just message me on Twitter. I always respond back and pretty much ask anybody that uses Twitter that follows me. I'm very easy to get a hold of, and I'll respond and whatever, we'll talk. But yeah, follow me on my Twitter for sure. And, you know, hopefully I can do these more often. I got a new camera now, so it's cool. And I think I'm going to do some Cowboys vids because I'm very passionate about the Dallas Cowboys. I love the Dallas Cowboys. DeMarco Murray has been a godsend. Also, you know, some of the additions of Laurent Robinson, Tony Fiammetta, Frank Walker. I mean, our scouting camp did such a good job with this, and we just play different. You know, at first it was a rocky road and stuff, but now Romo's healed from his injury, of his rib injury, and we're really starting to understand what this team can do, and we're getting some confidence, and I'm getting really excited. I mean, this team could be really scary, and the NFC is wide open. So, you know, except the Green Bay Packers, but you know, I feel like they look great right now, but towards the end of the year, things will start to fall apart. I mean, I remember the Patriots in 07. It's kind of the same deal, so we'll see what happens. I mean, I just feel like with that type of defense, you can't do what they want to do. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, hopefully I'll be doing more vids, and you know, like I said, I like talking to you guys. We can still talk pro wrestling, whatever. And I mean, if I feel passionate enough to talk about pro wrestling, I'll do it, but just right now, man, it just makes me mad. It makes me sick. I get really pissed off talking about pro wrestling, like if I'm talking on the phone with Bill or whatever, and we'll vent forever about it, and, you know, we'll just move on. But right now, yeah, it's pretty much about MMA and football. Oh, man, love football. So, it's good talking with you guys. Hit me up on Twitter, and we'll see how this goes. All right, later.